The Toyota RAV4 is a tried and tested SUV with a proven track record, and the Hybrid happens to be my favorite model of the whole lineup, so I end up recommending it a lot. Now, the RAV4 has been around in its current state for quite some time, so it's not bringing anything groundbreaking to the table, but what it's good at, it's really good at.
For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that.
So there's nothing much about this RAV4 that I can say that hasn't already been said, because we've seen it like this since 2018. And so, like I said, it's a tried and tested SUV. And what it does really, really well is be a hybrid, because after all, Toyota is a pioneer in that space. So this RAV4 Hybrid is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. It's paired up to a continuously variable automatic transmission, so a CVT, and the engine puts out 219 horsepower. Now, I actually prefer the hybrid over the regular gas version because you can pull on some of that hybrid power to get more acceleration. That said, I still have no desire to drive this car fast, because that's not what it's about. The whole thing is very efficient. I love this hybrid system because it is so clever and there's really no downside to it. So one of the highlights of the hybrid model is that it predominantly drives the front wheels using the gas engine, and then when slippage is detected, it will use the electric system to send power to the rear wheels, enabling all-wheel drive without the penalty on your fuel economy. That to me is amazing. There's really no downside, and I love that. And especially with winter tires like we have on today, it is very confident when it's snowy out. We're getting ready for a huge snowstorm, and so I'm very, very confident that this RAV4 will be able to get you through mostly anything that you'll be faced with. So in case you're not familiar with hybrids, this one makes it very, very easy to get great fuel economy. So it flips between gas and hybrid power pretty much seamlessly. You can't feel it happening, and it requires no intervention from the driver at all. So I've been driving it mostly in eco mode, which kind of restricts how fast you can go, with the idea that with smoother, more patient driving, you'll get better fuel economy. And so it runs in EV power, but only in low power situations, like when you're parking or when you're coasting or when you're waiting at a stoplight. It'll shut off the gas engine for you. And it plays this kind of sound when it's in EV power to kind of warn pedestrians. It's a safety issue. Some of you might find it annoying, but you really can't turn it off because it's legally mandated to be there. So just a warning. So in terms of driving dynamics, you might be surprised to hear that the RAV4 actually drives pretty well. It is built on a very great chassis that is smooth and comfortable, and yet it can corner surprisingly well, and I wasn't really expecting that to happen. I don't really love the steering because it's a little bit numb, and I'm not a huge fan of the brakes. So what happens with regenerative braking, which recharges the battery, it ends up feeling a little bit mushy and numb. And I just feel like the pedal should have a bit more feeling and be a bit more responsive. And that's not really a driving dynamics thing. That to me is a safety thing. Like, braking should be very predictable and it should always do what you expect it to do. So I wish those were a little bit better, but driving dynamics, I'm very happy with what's going on here. So efficiency-wise, this RAV4 Hybrid all-wheel drive is rated to get a combined 6 liters per 100 kilometers, which is really good. I've managed to get about 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's because I've been driving a lot of highway. So if I were to do more city driving, I would have no problem hitting those targets. And last time I drove a RAV4 Hybrid, it wasn't winter out, and I was able to get an awesome 5.7. So getting better fuel efficiency is definitely possible. So interior-wise, the last time I drove a RAV4, I didn't like it at all because it was very dark and very plasticky. This one has a bit more light and life in it because of this nice beige leather. I think it makes the interior feel a little bit more high-end than having all black, but there's still quite a bit of hard plastic in here, and there's some obvious signs of cost cutting, but it's really not that bad. And the reason why is because it is so good at being practical. So practicality, not a super sexy topic, but I love the fact that visibility is great. The sight lines are fantastic. Inside there are tons of cubbies to store stuff. There's that shelf right on the dashboard, huge door pockets. This compartment under the armrest is also quite large. The cup holders are big. The trunk is also very big, and what I like about the RAV4 is that it's just got a big boxy shape, which means you can put tons of stuff in it. And it also means that for the first time ever, Will Johnson, our video producer, is sitting back there and he has tons of headroom. And that almost never happens. So I really love the RAV4 because it excels at being so practical. I also wanted to note that I'm really happy to see that the hybrid has the exact same cargo capacity as the non-hybrid version, because the hybrid battery components are under the rear seat instead of in the trunk. And that's great because that means you don't have to sacrifice efficiency for practicality. One more thing I absolutely love, there are so many chunky knobs and buttons in this interior, and I think that is great because it makes it so much more user-friendly. There's so many other car makers who are just getting rid of knobs and buttons, forcing us to use touch capacitive stuff, and I hate that. So I'm really happy to see those here. Also, they made some improvements to the infotainment system. So it used to be really, really clunky, and it was hard to navigate, and it was very distracting to use. This one has a slight update where now there is a permanent row of shortcuts, even when you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and that just makes it easier to navigate. I do wish there was a home button and a back button, but already having that row of shortcuts makes it much more user-friendly. I still think it's a little bit clunky because some of the menus can make a little bit more sense, but in general, I'm really excited to see what the next generation RAV4 is like because I think the infotainment system is going to be even better. One minor downside is that I don't think that these chairs are the most comfortable, especially for longer trips. I wish the foam was just a little bit softer, but a little bit more supportive, because after a long drive, I just find myself aching all over, and I wish that wasn't the case. This RAV4 I'm driving right now is the top trim hybrid. So that's the limited all-wheel drive hybrid. So pricing for this one starts at around $47,500. So you'll get it out the door for about $50K, and that's before taxes, but that includes destination. So that actually seems like a really good value to me, just considering how good the RAV4 is at what it's supposed to do. But if that's a bit higher than what you've budgeted, the other RAV4 hybrids are also really, really good, and you can get into one for about $40,000 if you are willing to sacrifice a couple features. To recap, I love the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid's easy efficiency, practicality, and reputation for reliability. I'm not a big fan of the cheap-feeling interior or the clunky infotainment system. The Toyota RAV4 Hybrid is an easy pick for anyone who wants an SUV that's practical, reliable, and efficient. And as a bonus, it's built right here in Canada. I also wanted to mention that there's a brand new RAV4 that's coming later this year, which means it's going to be even better than it is now.